Let's talk about our neighbors to the north, the polite ones with the good healthcare, the maple syrup, and the reputation for being some of the friendliest people on the planet. Canadians have always been a familiar sight just across the border, bringing with them a certain charm and a lot of sorries. It's almost a national pastime, apologizing, even when it's not their fault. But there's more to our Canadian friends than just politeness. They've long been some of America's most loyal visitors, eager to explore, shop, and soak up the sun. For decades, Canadians flocked to the US, spending their loonies on cheap gas, outlet malls, and theme parks. From the snowbirds escaping winter to families on summer road trips, their visits fueled local economies from Florida to New York and everywhere in between. But now, something's changed. Canadian visits to the US have plummeted, millions fewer trips, billions lost for our tourist towns. Once bustling hotels and attractions now sit eerily quiet, and souvenir shops that once thrived on Canadian business are struggling to keep their doors open. This isn't just a blip, it's a seismic shift. Even after the chaos of recent years, pandemics, border closures, and travel restrictions, numbers haven't bounced back. The flow of Canadian tourists, once as steady as the Niagara Falls, has slowed to a trickle. It's like we threw a 4-year-long party, trashed the place, and now wonder why our neighbors won't come over. The welcome mat is still out, but the guests just aren't showing up. The message from Canada? They're just not that into us anymore. The excitement of cross-border trips has faded, replaced by hesitation and second thoughts. For an economy that relies on those friendly northern faces, that's a big problem. Local businesses, hotels, and restaurants are feeling the pinch, wondering if the good times will ever return. So, what happened? How did we go from best buds to awkward acquaintances? The border that once symbolized friendship now feels like a dividing line. The answer: a toxic mix of politics, tariffs, and the sense that America's become unpredictable and unwelcoming. Trade disputes, shifting policies, and a general feeling of uncertainty have all played a part in driving Canadians away. Canadians are voting with their wallets, and right now, they're staying home or heading elsewhere. Europe, Asia, and even their own backyard are looking more appealing than ever. The Great Canadian Disappearing Act is on, and we need to figure out why before they're gone for good. If we want to see those familiar faces back at our attractions, it's time to ask ourselves, what can we do to make our neighbors feel welcome again? It wasn't always like this. There was a time, not so long ago, when the border between Canada and the United States felt more like a welcome mat than a barrier. Crossing over was almost a rite of passage, a shared experience that brought people together rather than kept them apart. For generations, the Canada-US relationship was the gold standard for neighborly love. Our two countries were celebrated for their open arms and open roads, setting an example for the world of what true friendship between nations could look like. Canadians made regular pilgrimages south, road trips, shopping sprees, Disney adventures. Every summer, highways filled with cars packed for adventure, and border towns thrived on the excitement of visitors eager to explore, shop, and make memories. These trips were about more than vacations. They were about connection, families, friendships, and economies intertwined. Bonds were formed over shared meals, laughter at roadside diners, and the simple joy of being able to visit loved ones just across the line. Canadians were our #1 international tourists, pouring billions into our economy, and supporting jobs everywhere from Vegas to Orlando. Their visits kept our hotels bustling, our malls busy, and our attractions lively, creating a vibrant cross-border economy that benefited both sides. The border was easy, the welcome was warm, and the relationship felt unbreakable. Smiling border guards, quick passport checks, and a sense of trust made travel feel effortless and safe. We weren't just neighbors, we were family. Generations grew up with cross-border traditions, picnics, reunions, and friendships that blurred the lines on the map. But that golden age feels like a distant memory now. The once busy crossings are quieter, and the laughter that echoed in tourist towns has faded. The ease and warmth have been replaced by suspicion and tension. Now travelers face longer lines, more questions, and a sense of unease that wasn't there before. Political roadblocks have cluttered the open road, and the friendly wave is now a wary glance. The simple act of crossing the border has become complicated, weighed down by new rules and old fears. A century of goodwill can be eroded by just a few years of bad politics. Decades of trust and cooperation are fragile, easily shaken by shifting policies and heated rhetoric. It's a cautionary tale. Never take your best friend, or your best customer, for granted. Because once that golden age slips away, it's not so easy to get it back. So, how did we mess up such a good thing? For decades, the US-Canada border was a symbol of friendship and easy travel, a place where families, friends, and tourists crossed with little more than a smile and a passport. But then, everything changed. Enter the tariff tantrum. In 2018, the Trump administration slapped tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, calling it a national security issue. This move shocked many, since Canada had always been seen as a reliable partner, not a potential threat. Suddenly, our closest ally was being treated like an adversary. The message was clear. Even the friendliest relationships could be upended overnight. Canadians noticed, and they didn't take it lying down. The Canadian government hit back with tariffs of their own, targeting iconic American products and making it clear that this was now a two-way fight. Suddenly, everything from bourbon to ketchup cost more, and the trade war spilled into daily life. Shoppers on both sides of the border felt the pinch as prices crept up and familiar brands became symbols of a growing rift. But the real damage wasn't just economic, it was personal. The relationship between the two countries, once warm and neighborly, began to chill. America looked less like a partner, more like a bully, and trust started to erode. President Trump's public attacks on Prime Minister Trudeau turned a policy spat into a personal feud. The headlines weren't just about tariffs anymore, they were about insults, bruised egos, and national pride. For Canadians, this chaos was deeply unsettling. America, once seen as a stable and welcoming neighbor, now seemed unpredictable, even hostile. Families who once looked forward to cross-border trips began to question whether they were still welcome. The vacation vibe was dead. Why spend money in a country that treats you like the enemy? Popular tourist spots that once bustled with Canadian visitors suddenly felt empty and uninviting. The calculus for Canadian families changed. It wasn't just about finding the best deals or the shortest drive anymore. It was about dignity, respect, and feeling valued as a guest. The tariff tantrum poisoned the well of goodwill that had sustained cross-border tourism for decades. Small businesses in U.S. border towns, once thriving on Canadian visitors, now faced empty parking lots and shuttered doors. The result? Canadians started looking elsewhere for their getaways. Europe, the Caribbean, and even destinations within Canada suddenly looked a lot more appealing. The economic and emotional fallout was immediate. Travel agencies saw bookings to the U.S. plummet, and border towns on both sides felt the sting of lost business and broken traditions. The vacation vibe was officially dead. What was once a seamless, joyful tradition had become a casualty of politics, leaving memories of better days and a longing for the return of true neighborly spirit. Political tensions didn't just stay in Washington, they trickled down to the border. What was once a simple crossing became an ordeal. More questions, more searches, more suspicion. Canadians began to feel unwelcome, even targeted, both at the border and inside the U.S. The famous American hospitality seemed in short supply. Vacations are supposed to be stress-free, not anxiety-inducing. The emotional cost of travel started to outweigh the benefits. Why risk a stressful encounter when you could just go somewhere else? Want to see the fallout? Look at Las Vegas. For years, Vegas was a Canadian magnet. Cheap flights, buffets, and the thrill of the slots. Canadians filled hotel rooms, bought show tickets, and kept the city buzzing. But when politics soured, the Canadian cash flow dried up. Vegas businesses felt the pinch. Fewer guests, lower revenues, and jobs on the line. It wasn't just Vegas. Florida, Arizona, New York, anywhere that relied on Canadian tourists took a hit. Shopping malls in border towns emptied out. The economic ripple effect was massive. Politicians played politics, but real businesses paid the price. The lesson? Alienate your best customer, and everyone loses. Even the house doesn't always win when your loyal players cash out. For many Canadians, crossing the border became a source of anxiety. Reports of long interrogations, invasive searches, and discriminatory treatment surged. The border, once a symbol of openness, became a flashpoint for fear. Even successful crossings felt like ordeals. Long waits, personal questions, and a sense of being unwelcome. Canadians who once crossed without a second thought now hesitated. The risk of a ruined weekend was too high. Many simply stayed home or traveled elsewhere. The border itself had become the biggest deterrent. After watching Canadian tourists disappear, American destinations scrambled to win them back. Out came the marketing blitz, maple leaves, hockey sticks, and discount coupons galore. Vegas, Florida, and others offered special deals, hoping bargains would do the trick. But you can't put a coupon on respect. The real issue wasn't price, it was feeling unwelcome. The campaigns treated symptoms, not the disease. Canadians weren't buying it, the numbers stayed low. Winning back trust will take more than a 2-for-1 deal. The decline in Canadian tourism isn't just about lost dollars, it's about lost connections. Billions in revenue vanished, jobs disappeared, and small businesses struggled. But the cultural and emotional losses run deeper. Families and friendships that spanned the border are now strained. The cross-pollination of ideas, art, and experiences has slowed. A generation of Canadians now sees America as divided, not welcoming. When we stop visiting, we stop understanding. The Canada-US relationship was built on millions of personal ties. That fabric is fraying, and the cost is incalculable. We didn't just lose tourists, we lost a piece of our shared identity. So, where do we go from here? Experts warn, a full recovery could take years, if it happens at all. Canadians have learned to be cautious and to vacation elsewhere. Rebuilding trust will take more than a new president or trade deal. It means professional, respectful border crossings and a genuine welcome. American communities must show Canadians they're valued for more than their money. Even the strongest partnerships are fragile, built on trust, respect, and predictability. The story of the disappearing Canadian tourist is a warning. Politics has real-world consequences. Restoring old travel traditions will be a long road. It'll take patience, humility, and real change. We have to prove we're still the friendly neighbor we once were. Because a friendship that only works when one side is apologizing isn't a friendship. It's just, well, Canadian. And maybe it's time for America to say sorry too.